I've learned from experience that the place to save lives is in the field, not an office. And sometimes...
What's going on, everybody? Sloth here. Hope you're having an awesome day and welcome to my guide of Doc. To start this video off, we're first going to take a look at Doc's optimum loadout. Then we're going to have a look at how to use Doc's Stim Pistol effectively. And then finally, we're going to take a look at what a typical round when playing as Doc is going to look like and how you're going to want to try and play him most effectively. Jumping right into it, Doc is a 3 armor, 1 speed, heavy operator hailing from the French Special Forces, the GIGN. Now, Doc is a pretty interesting defensive operator. Considering that he does have 3 armor and 1 speed, that would likely lead you to believe that you wouldn't want to roam as him. But I've generally found that I play a mixture of both when playing as Doc, and I'm going to get into that later on in the video. But first, we're going to take a look at Doc's loadout. Doc has a wide array of primary weapons to choose from, but one of those 3 stands out immensely and he kind of soars above the rest. But going through them all, he has access to the SG-CQB shotgun. Now, this shotgun does 53 damage, has a pump action fire rate, and also has a capacity of 7 in the magazine. Then he has access to the P90, which is a low damage of 22, a fire rate of 970, and a capacity of 50 in the magazine. And then finally onto the MP5, that has a damage of 30, a fire rate of 800, and a capacity of 30. Out of these 3 guns, I'm going to recommend to you the MP5, purely because I just think it's the best gun by a mile out of these 3. The shotgun, I'm not a huge fan of playing with shotguns, but you can have a lot of fun when using shotguns playing as Doc. If you give yourself an overheal and just run in there all guns blazing, it is actually quite fun to do, and sometimes can be effective, but I'm not a huge shotgun user, so I'm not really a big fan of this one. And also between the P90 and the MP5, the MP5 for me just kind of edges it because it does a little bit more damage and has a competitive fire rate of 800. I know it doesn't have as much in the magazine or as a higher fire rate as the P90, but the stability with the P90 isn't great, whereas with the MP5, it's a very, very consistent weapon, and also it has access to the ACOG sight, and not a lot of defenders since the last updates have access to ACOG sight, so it actually makes Doc pretty valuable in the sense that he's one of the few defensive operators that has access to a weapon not only with an ACOG sight, but that also has great stability, great damage, and he's all round a really good weapon, so I really do recommend the MP5. In terms of what attachments I do run on the MP5, I have just touched upon it there. I commonly like to run with an ACOG sight where possible on defenders, and it suits the MP5 really well. It's a very clear sight and doesn't take up too much of the screen. Also, I like to go for a compensator purely because you're holding down the trigger, it's going to give your bullets a slightly tighter spread. Moving on to the secondary weapons that Doc has available to him, he has the choice between the P9 handgun and the LFP586 handgun. Now, the LFP586 is basically like your standard Magnum revolver type handgun, does very heavy damage but has a slow rate of fire and not a lot in the magazine. That's why I generally like to edge towards the P9 because it's a bit more stable and a bit more consistent for me in clutch situations, but between these two, it's really up to you what type of pistol you prefer. And then in terms of choice of secondary gadget, he has the choice between barbed wire and deployable shield. Now this one depends on your team. If your team's running with loads of barbed wire, might be a wise choice to pick up the deployable shield and vice versa. Me, commonly, I prefer barbed wire. I think it comes in very useful, but that's just my take on it, and that's the optimum loadout I'd like to go for on Doc. So to sum up his loadout that I like to run the MP5 on Doc with the ACOG sight and the compensator. I also like to run with the P9 in my secondary weapon slot with the barbed wire. Now let's take a look at Doc's gadget, the Stim Pistol. What this basically does, it fires a hypodermic shot to revive down teammates. It can also revive Doc himself when he goes down, but it also can provide a boost. It can also provide a heal to your teammates and to yourself even if you are not down. Also, it can provide an overheal to yourself and to your teammates. So if you are on 100 health and you shoot yourself with the hypodermic shot, you are going to get a boost of up to 34.
Today, Junior?
40 health. Now that is where the health caps at. You cannot go above 140 health on Doc. And every time that you do use the Stim Pistol, you are going to go up in a block of 40 HP every single time. Just to make you aware of that. Now the Stim Pistol as a whole for Doc is a solid gadget, but it is quite situational. But it is a lot better than it once was. When the game first came out, Doc's Stim Pistol was only able to revive himself and down teammates, but with the addition of the previous updates, the fact that it allows you to not only heal yourself and your teammates, but overheal them, gives the Stim Pistol another element to it and another edge, and makes it a lot more useful. But again, it's very situational in times where you're going to be able to use it, because most of the time when your teammates go down, in terms of being able to get a line of sight on them and shoot them before the enemy's able to finish them off, is pretty difficult. And considering how long it takes for someone to get up after they have been revived, that animation time is quite lengthy. It does leave them exposed. So in terms of actually reviving your teammates with this Stim Pistol, isn't always the easiest thing to do, but it can come in handy and can come in clutch in a lot of situations. But it is very useful for yourself in a sense if you want to play quite selfishly, in terms of if you go down or you're in a gunfight with someone and you put each other both down, or if you are behind cover and you go down, you're able to get yourself back up and get back in the fight. Also, say for instance, if you're just having a gunfight with someone and you come off worse but you don't go down, but say you may be on like 10 HP, you are able to heal yourself back up and become good as new. That's one of the best uses for the pistol I find, is kind of trying to use the pistol as much as possible, because you never know when you are going to get killed. So I like to kind of use the pistol whenever I see one of my teammates is weak. It's better to use it on them then than to wait maybe and hope that they get weaker because they may end up dying. So it's always best to kind of use the pistol, I think, whenever you get the opportunity to. That way you're never going to feel like you are wasting it, because if you die and you had the opportunity to heal someone and you didn't take it, it's kind of a waste of using Doc in a sense. But I don't want you to feel like you can't be selfish with the Stim Pistol. You know, if you get damaged yourself, feel free to put yourself back up to 100%. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, at the end of the day, your life matters as well as much as your team. Don't wait for someone to go down on your team to use it. You know, if you see they're weak, make sure you're shooting them with it and getting them up to the highest HP as possible. Because of the Stim Pistol though, Doc is very valuable the later the round goes on the defense, because the longer you can keep him alive and the longer he's around, he can obviously help teammates that are in clutch situations. So trying to stay alive with Doc as long as possible is important. But I'm going to touch on how to play Doc in the next section of the video, because I like to play him in kind of a bit of a strange way. Another element you shouldn't be afraid to do when playing as Doc, say for instance if you know that an enemy is around the corner and you are involved in a gunfight, or you're just about to enter a gunfight, if you have got time, you may as well give yourself the boost to your health with the Hypodermic Shot using the Stim Pistol, because if you do this might just win you the gunfight. You know, having that extra bit of HP, because Doc's already got the 3 armor, he is quite tanky anyway, but giving yourself this extra 40 HP can really be the difference between winning some gunfights. And so I see no problem with, you know, being an aggressive Doc player in a sense. If you know an enemy's around the corner, feel free to give yourself the boost and then go and engage them. Or if you can see that your teammate is about to engage in this type of combat, feel free to give him the boost, because you know that he's going to be going into a situation where he could potentially die, and that could save his life as well. In terms of playing Doc, it's like you need to be very aware of what your teammate's doing and kind of keep an eye on them at all times if possible, because that way you're going to know how much HP people are on if they are engaging in battles. But that's something that you're going to pick up with time when playing as Doc. Now moving into what a typical round would look like when playing as Doc. Now I like to play Doc in a bit of a different way than some people may think. I know that because he has 3 armor, he's not meant to roam, because he does make a lot of noise. But the way I like to play him is because he doesn't have much to do in terms of the setting up phase, in terms he doesn't have to use his gadget and he doesn't have to deploy anything special. I like to try and get my 2 reinforced walls down, put my barbed wire down, and then run to try and get a spawn peak. Because the MP5 is like a laser beam, I feel really confident with it when trying to take on spawn peaks, because it's so stable and the ACOG sight on it gives you that real advantage of being able to see the enemy quite clearly. I like to run for a spawn peak and try and get one. Plus Doc is great for spawn peeking and spawn killing, because if he does go down, you're usually covered by the window still, and because you can get yourself up, you might be away from your other teammates, it allows you kind of that second chance. Whereas if another teammate went for that and they got shot down, they'd most likely be dead in that situation. So yeah, I like to set up quickly as Doc, run, try and get a spawn peek and kill an enemy. Then after this point, it's very important to retreat back to the safety of the room. Once I've got that spawn kill, I've taken out one of the enemies now. Now we're up in an advantage situation. It's time to go and sit back and help anchor, because the longer Doc is alive and around, the more heals he can give out and the more benefit he can give to his team and trying to win the round. Now, some of you might not like the idea of going for a spawn peek. If you don't feel confident doing it, don't do it. But believe me, the MP5 is one of the best guns for doing this, and I feel really confident doing it because it is a great gun. So feel free to try it when playing as Doc. But that's pretty much it for me, guys. That's how I like to play Doc, and I hope I've covered some of the things in this video of how the Stim Pistol works. Thank you for watching this video, guys, and have a great day.